Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast. And look at him, he's holding tight. All right, I like it. Well, hey, who do we have on the show today? This is going to be a high energy show, I can tell. Introduce yourself, everybody. They already know you, but introduce yourself. Let's start with Wyatt. This is Wyatt's first podcast.
Is it really?
Very first podcast.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like ever in your life?
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Very well.
Yeah. So,
and you were made for podcasting, so you're coming into it late, but you're going to find your niche right here.
You think? I guess we'll find out today.
Well, introduce yourself, Wyatt.
My name is Wyatt Kirk. I'm the operations manager at Shed Geek Marketing.
Excellent. And Cord, new to the team.
Yeah.
But you guys seen Cord before, but it's okay. You're seeing him in a whole new light now. So
That's right. I've been on the podcast before in my previous role with HHO Carbon Clean Systems, talking about fleet maintenance and kind of talking directly to shed haulers, but I am the newest team at Guerrilla Marketing, Shed Geek Marketing. And I don't know that we've worked out a true title yet, but it feels like brand strategy, account management, some getting my hands dirty with the integrations and automations as well. So just trying to help the team maximize value, the whole bit.
and then the man, the myth, the legend.
It is I.
He is him.
So
He is
I
him.
am Dylan Street. I'm the president of Shed Geek Marketing. So, my job, I do a lot of account management, just pushing forward. My biggest thing is like creating a culture that everybody loves to come to work in, right? So, making sure that we're on top of all of our jobs. We don't let anything slip through the cracks. I think one of our biggest value assets for Shed Geek Marketing is like our whole team is almost in-house. So we all work together in the same office every day, makes us much more efficient, quicker, and to be honest, we just freaking work harder, you know? And so that's been our biggest value proposition to the industry. And we've just kind of figured out the shed industry, we figured it out, and we're just going to take it all the way.
All the way.
All the
I like
way.
it. I was thinking on the way over here this morning, I was like, you know what? It's the day after Thanksgiving, right? It's Friday morning. I'm leaving the house at maybe 8 o'clock to head over here. Dylan's already in office. He's like, hey, Cord and Wyatt are coming in at 9. They're already here at 8
built
o'clock.
him. He won't admit to that, but we beat him into the office.
Oh, okay.
They did beat me here. However, I was actually looking for computers for our web designer. So
It's a good sign whenever everybody's like the camaraderie and the conversation, the competition's like who can get to work first. But a thought came to my mind, and it's like this old saying that says hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I'm not like, hey, if you're taking Friday off and if you look back at this podcast when it airs and you say, what did I do on that Friday after Thanksgiving? Yeah. We lounged around, watched some TV, maybe we did some community projects, whatever it is. All I'm saying is this is one thing I love about this team is you won't find a lack of hard work. And that's something that's been very valuable that my dad taught me growing up. And that's something that really it just hits home with the shed industry.
yeah, what's interesting? So my dad, his father, who passed about 7 years ago, he worked him so hard. I mean, he was driving tractors at 8, all day long, and driving trucks to go pick up feed and all kinds of stuff. And so he kind of despised his dad for making him work so hard his whole life. In return, he really didn't make me do much, and which, hey, great when I'm a, young, selfish kid, but it affected me in a different way. So I had to create my own drive through my own passions. You know what I mean? So that's why today, as y'all know, what's my favorite day of the week?
Monday,
all day. I don't know if that's rubbed off on Cord or Wyatt yet, but we'll get them there.
Yeah.
I love Mondays. Today's Friday. I am not super excited as the hours dwindle away.
But it feels like more of a Monday because we just came off Thanksgiving. I feel like we came in with energy this morning.
I totally agree.
Now we only got 1 day worth of it, and we'll be back to the weekend. But, it was a good morning already at 8 a.m.
I think the industry gets that. I do think they get that. Only reason I'm not a mechanic, Dylan's because my father was, right? I've told this story before. I go out and I go out to help my dad, and it's like wrenches going past your head. You know what I mean? It's like, go get me this tool. I don't even know what that tool is. But, it's like, you can't hurt my feelings because I held the flashlight for my dad growing up. That kind of
100%.
Facebook meme. That was my dad all day long. It's like, go get this tool. I don't know what it is. What, are you stupid? Go get the, you know what I mean? Like, go get the tool. Like, I need it. And my dad was in survival mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he had a 6th grade education. There were 16 of them. You know what I mean? Like, they were poor. Like, his dad cut wood for a living. So all the boys had to go out and do that. Like, my dad's almost 82.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Had me late in life. So, like, for him, that was, the work ethic was just a little bit different. But it's one thing I appreciate about the team. It's one thing I appreciate about the industry. So what are we going to do with all this hard work? Whenever you say all the things for the shed industry, where are we going to take it? How big is it going to go?
Oh gosh. I mean, do we really want to go there right now?
I don't know. There's certain things I think we can talk about, and there's certain things that we maybe have already come to fruition by the time this episode goes out. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, so far, as far as the Shed Geek Marketing, I mean, I could speak on finance, rentals, podcasts, all the above, but our biggest value proposition is Shed Geek Marketing is like, we're 40 plus clients in with 100% retention rate. And now, the shed industry has that bit of FOMO, right? They have a little bit of FOMO. And now, we've worked with a plethora of, $2 million a year to $17 million a year companies. And that's kind of been our area. But now we're up in $30 million a year, $60 million a year companies. And, it seems like every time you step up in those next levels, then those caliber of people start reaching out. And what we're seeing is that the companies that are huge, they have in-house marketing teams, and now they're all firing their in-house marketing teams and hiring an agency that knows the shed industry, right? And so the more that happens, because look at it this way. You have a $50, $60 million a year company that dominates the West Coast that may use us, right? Well, they know somebody or connect somebody on the East Coast. And they're like, hey, these guys are killing it, right? They're like, well, we have an in-house marketing team. And they're like, well, okay, what's your cost per leads? How are y'all doing? How many leads y'all get? It's like, okay, well, these guys get so many, we actually have to tell them to shut the leads off sometimes, And so it's like that FOMO, you know what I mean? But like these shed companies, they're so protected. They do want to try to keep everything vertically integrated as much as they can. But when you have just a couple of people running the marketing that only has their wealth of knowledge, generally not coming out from another shed company, they're coming as a marketing expert from somewhere else. Like, it's hard to beat a huge team.
A team.
Like the big Shed Geek Marketing team. It's hard to beat that where, it's a similar pricing. Like you pay 2 marketing guys in-house for a big company, 30, 40, 50 plus dealers, and you're paying them $80,000 a year, $160,000 a year. Like, we're generally, depending on some things, as far as recurring services, like we're way cheaper than that.
And you get a whole team.
And you get a whole team.
As opposed to one individual who's kind of limited by their knowledge, their growth, or really the ability to go out and like capture more like value themselves. You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden, like, Wyatt's like already became like this expert in like the CRM world, right? So now like you can start to pull on different people. So you don't have to rely on one person to solve like all your problems.
Absolutely not. And I mean, man, we're at the point now where we have gotten like our Google ad cost per clicks and our conversion rates, and then Facebook. We kind of know what all those are. Now that's different depending on the demographics, population density, area, what you offer. If you offer tiny homes, you get more, cheaper lead form costs and different things. But, now we're at the point where it's like we know that our cost per clicks and our leads are cheaper than any other shed marketing agency. So what do? Do we stay there? No. We now have hired like consultants that have worked with. We've got a guy that's worked with. Who else he worked with? Nike. I mean, $1 million budgets, per month, right? So now we've brought him in, and he's training our team to take it to the next level. So like we're going to constantly evolve, no matter what it costs, in every area that we possibly can. and not to mention all the other things that we're about to add.
And just as like a little bit of a misnomer to what you're saying, obviously there are a bunch of companies that aim or have achieved effectively vertical integration within the shed space.
Be yourself. That is huge. And it sounds simple, but it's huge. Be yourself. When you're talking to your customer, be yourself. Customers want to do business with somebody that is a human. We don't want a checklist. How are you? How old are you? What kind of car do you drive? We can come up with a checklist of all the questions you can ask, but that's a robot. Find what makes you different.
Hello, shed industry. I wanted to share some exciting news about the upcoming Garage, Shed, and Carport Builder Trade Show in January in Greenville, South Carolina. Gary Boyle of Making Sales Simple will be delivering his impactful speech following the path to success on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 9 a.m. This is a fantastic opportunity to hear Gary share practical strategies and insights that align perfectly with the Making Sales Simple philosophy. We'd also like for you to stop by our booth, number 106.
But I really think it's a misnomer to think that somehow steps outside of that, right? If anything, I mean, I've watched Wyatt, I kind of call him the Sultan of CRM, right? Like, he is so good at this. He is enhancing the verticality, the communication, the ability of your business to present itself consistently, have automations that continue to run different pieces of the business. If anything, I think we are like helping that company to maximize the vertical efficiency that they have, right? Yeah. But like, you need to maximize that verticality. And I mean, I've watched Wyatt do it for a couple of weeks now, and he's as good as I've ever seen.
So
brag on yourself, Wyatt.
Wyatt's like,
so the issue here is, though, here's the issue, is that, shed companies are very guarded. And they don't, when they've amassed a certain amount of wealth and they've done so well, they don't want to bring in like an outside team. And so then they're like, well, what if one of our competitors starts working with you? And that's always kind of that one little hurdle that I don't even see as a hurdle at all, right? Because it's like it doesn't come down to using the same agency. It comes down to the styles that you offer, your branding, your messaging, strategy. Do you have video content? Are your graphics solid? Do you curate reviews? Like, it's a whole big thing. And then, my simple thing is like, well, hey, so what if you hire Joe Blow 70 miles away, who's a really good dealer or a really good manufacturer, and you're both running our Google and our Facebook ads, and I say this, well, we're going to do just as good a job for them as we are for you. However, there are some branding elements, content elements, and then who has got the most ad budget? Yeah. Like, who's spending the most? Because if ABC Sheds is spending $1,700 a month, and then Big Dog Sheds is spending $1,700 a month on like Google ads, and Big Dog 70 miles away is spending $5,000 a month, it's even if their branding isn't as good, they're getting more impressions, eyeballs, cost per click, lead conversions, because they're spending more money.
It really comes down to like the power of the purse. Like if you are, and this is the natural progression of sort of an industry is what I'm finding. Hopefully, I don't want to give too much away because I've got an article that's coming out in the Shed Business Journal. So I don't want to say too much on this, but I began to look at the progression of like any industry and not just the shed industry. And what are the 5 key points? What are the things that starts to happen to an industry as it evolves, as it matures? Technological advances, always at the top of one of those lists. But towards the end of that list, you always see acquisitions, mergers, collaborations, consolidations, right? Because we've talked about this before with like Richard Mashburn at Banks Buildings.
Big Dog.
Yeah, Big Dog. Yeah. So Richard was like,
Hey, hold on. Hang on.
Okay.
Mr. Mashburn, you're still not working with us. But anyway, go ahead, Shannon.
So you take Richard and he's like, this is still a company or an industry that you can like build a shed in your backyard and stick it out in the front and sell it. And you can get started on a real business model and it still works. But what we're finding is just like the rest of like the shed industry is not immune to the rest of the way shoppers choose to shop.
Yeah.
So like they're moving in a digital space more and more all the time. Now, I mean, there's naysayers. Oh, it's all going to fall apart tomorrow, right? And then there's some that's like, I think that we're in like this weird crossroads. We're like in this in between where I don't even know if it's going to go all one way or all the other. You're still going to be able to put a shed out in your front yard because you built it in your garage and sell it. But now the question is, if you're moving, I mean, we're almost consulting now, right? This isn't even marketing conversation. Like, if you want to move your business forward, what does your model look like? Like, why are there companies that sell 2,500 sheds a year as a manufacturer and some that can't get past selling 300 a year? And they're like, I just can't figure it out, you know? And it's like, yeah, well, you're risk averse, right? Like, why aren't you? And this all comes back to something you said earlier. And I just really want to harp on is whenever you said, I need you to turn my leads off. So I just want to walk through the mentality of that for a moment. Not saying anyone's wrong for saying it. I want to walk through the mentality. We're going to hire you, Shed Geek Marketing. We want you to do a good job. These are the value propositions that you're suggesting you'll bring to the table. You've done them so well, I want you to stop doing it instead of I'm going to improve systems and processes on the other end.
Or just sales team, right? I mean, there is a certain amount of like you can only, a sales guy can only process or have the conversations. But to your point, right? Like it may not even be an operations issue. It may be a people issue.
Well, I'm telling you, the one people get all the time, they'll be like, we get these leads and we just can't convert them. You know what I mean? And like whenever we're onboarding a client, they're like, hey, with all of your clients, what's the conversion ratio on sold? And they want to know how it, relates to dollars. And it's like, well, first off, we're working with traditional Amish. Some have a CRM. Some have a Shed Suite or a My Shed or or like a Shed Pros new all-in-one. Like they have all that and they can do some of those numbers, but like a lot of them don't do that and they don't have those numbers. They don't have their sold conversion ratio off Facebook lead forms, off Google ad conversion. They don't have those. And so, yes, we would love to be able to take everything that, from all of them, but we don't get that. We don't see that side of things. So like what we can do, here's what we can do. Is that we know based off of the data that Google and Meta have on people that are interested in outdoor structures of that type, they know that you've been researching that type of product recently. We can even choose on how long ago, anyone within, 120 days, right? We can reach them, retarget them, so on and so forth. And so to me, it doesn't make sense. If we hit someone with an ad and we show them what they want, the different structure types, they're hooked, we're running a sale at 10% off all in-stock inventory. They look at it, they click get quote, they give us their name, phone number, email, zip code. That's a good, they're interested. They want it. They are interested. Then that goes to our client, and then they can't make the sale, and then they're like, well, we're not selling these.
Lead's no good. The lead's no good.
Yeah, or salesperson sucks.
Yeah.
Or this is what I tell them all the time. I'll even ask them simply. We had a guy, I'm not going to mention where, but he was like, yeah. I was like, I've called all of these leads. What time did you call them? While I'm at work. I was like, they're probably at work.
Yeah, you called them at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and
they didn't answer. You didn't sell. And to be clear, and this is not the direction we're going, but I mean, like, you can only really answer the question with like, well, we called this lead and they didn't sell. How do we know it's a good lead? Well, like in kindness, I want to say this with the most like kindness I know how to. Like we can lead the horse to water. We can't make it drink. We can't make them buy too.
Yeah.
So like if I could hand you a $3 lead.
Yeah,
that you're paying for, and I guarantee that they're going to buy a building,
then we're going to start selling sheds.
That's
right. Yeah. We'll start selling sheds.
Like
ourselves.
There's still a part of the process you have to do.
So then, what did that lead us to? It's like we've got to help come up with a solution, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like eventually, whenever people are like, I heard this whenever I started the podcast. How are you going to interview someone every week? You're going to run out of people within the first month. And you're just like, are you kidding? Like, there's so many people untouched yet. Yeah. We've only interviewed 400 people. How many companies are like? Everyone's not only got a story to tell, but like that's what networking does. That's what we're doing, right? So like we're trying to use it as maximum efficiency. And I don't know, dude. I just think when people say there's not opportunity, it blows my mind. I think there's not enough time in the day to capitalize on the opportunity. So to answer your question, it's kind of like, well, do we need to be more in the consulting and sales world all of a sudden to kind of like help people, show them how to sell? Or do we need to sell for them if that's what they would prefer?
Yeah. And I mean, the step that we've taken now with people having these issues, it's like we were in an account, Wyatt, I don't know, was it yesterday? Not going to say who, but they had about 600 people in the new leads pipeline. Meaning that they got hit with our ad, whether it was a 3D submission, Facebook lead form, Google ad lead form, website contact form, goes into the new lead funnel on their CRM. That means they're in an automation system, right? So we'll build, 7, 15, 20, 30-day automation systems where it constantly sends email, text, and then it notifies, prompts that salesperson that it was designated to call that person, and it does this. And so then we use conditional logic based off if they don't answer, they keep going down the funnel. If they do answer, they move over in the pipeline to responded. And from that point, the human salesperson takes over the process. Well, I was looking, and these people had 300 people that have responded, and they haven't
reached out.
They haven't talked to them, right? Or some of them have talked to them, but they didn't move them over into in communication, right? So it's just like, and this is just a 2-second drag over. I mean, it's very simple stuff. So it's like you got to utilize it, and we train them well on how to use these things. And, you've got to use these things because, what we do is we take your pitch, we look at your pitch, but then we also advise based off of maybe some of our bigger clients that have better conversion ratios, better pitches, I guess, so to speak, and then we would recommend, hey, do this at this point, so on and so forth. When you send your last final text message, offer a 5% discount as a hook, and then if they never respond to a short-term automation, then we dump them in a email drip campaign. But most of our automations are structure specific. So if we ask for their name, phone number, email, zip code, we generally ask for what type of structure are you interested in, and in that way, our funnel goes down that particular style's funnel, right? So it's very custom to them, right? It's not robotic, doesn't look like a machine, it's a human.
You get a text message that says, we noticed that you were interested in our A-frame, yada, yada. I mean, that's what, that's what you're getting into. I know that our lingo sometimes flies over people's heads, so I'm trying to make sure that everybody
it's
listening.
It's different all across the country.
Right. Yeah. But I think
Hello. Today we're going to take a look at iFab's component saw system. So we're utilizing a DeWalt chop saw. We've put it on sliders, easily to adjust. We've automated it using pneumatics so that we can run all these saws together using one actuator. We can either actuate with a 2-hand safety control here or a foot pedal. The 2-hand safety control comes with board clamps here, so to clamp in your board so you're totally hands-free. We've got digital readout up here to find your angle as well as your length. So we have a 90-degree saw here for your super long angle cuts. We've also got a conveyor on this system to take away your cutoffs. This system is completely modular. We can add as many saws as you need. The rails can be as long as you need.
For more information, visit www.ifabllc.com.
the opportunity circling around that is just so huge because what we're really chasing here are consumer trends, right? And the big trend is that consumers are more and more likely or comfortable with making big ticket purchases, using these digital channels, right? Whether you land on a shed builder, whether you wind up on somebody's website, fill out a contact form, whether you interact with a lead form on Facebook. The fact is consumers, I mean, just casually think about our lives or the lives of the viewers. I mean, would anyone at this table think twice about ordering a $1,200 to $2,000 MacBook online? No, we would prefer it, right? You get what you want.
Yeah.
You tell them what you want and it shows up. That is the shed industry, right? Like that's the same concept. You know, so now the difference here, and again, where this huge opportunity that I see is, why are people comfortable giving $2,000 to Apple through a computer screen? Because they feel like they trust Apple.
Yes.
Right? And the shed industry is so fragmented that and it's fragmented for a reason. It's fragmented because the cost curve increases with any kind of hauling of a thing this size and this weight, right? So you can't ship anything very long distances. So you wind up with fractured manufacturing, which means you wind up with fragmented markets that are owned. I mean, all of it makes sense. But the point is, like, the opportunity and the sort of, to your point about like, and I like what you say about how much are you spending, the sort of 3% minimum, 3 to 7 is like, now we're being aggressive. And like, if you want to like grow, right, you're talking that 8 to 10, 15, even, right? Like be super aggressive, pump content. But the point is like, consumers are willing to customize and purchase all through a screen. So which company is going to be the company that is trusted by enough consumers that like to your point, maybe the sales, either, you know, we wind up in some kind of a space where we're doing a little bit of that, or it's not a sale.
Yeah.
It's a delivery.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and like that is like, we're on the cusp of it, because if people are willing to give $2,000 to Apple, and I mean, run down the list, you know, my wife will order $2,000 worth of luggage, right? She'll order all new luggage for the whole family, right? Like, well, I mean, like,
go to TJ Maxx.
Dude, I know.
I love Annalisa though.
I know.
Annalisa,
But like, she wants the family to match, and I mean, it's ridiculous. But you know what?
Moving on.
But the point is, and now she's going to watch this because I told her
Jesus
I was doing
Christ.
a podcast.
Sorry,
And so,
Annalisa.
anyway, my point is that like people are more and more comfortable with it. So now you just have to be the trusted person.
You know what? I'm just going to throw it out there because I think we know it's all true. And like a good example of like a trusted brand on, we know that Dirksen and Graceland's trusted, right?
Yeah.
You know, we know that. They're everywhere. Everybody's heard of them. You know, Cook was a very trusted. I mean, you know, people still call them Cook Sheds, but like, you know, one of our clients, Black's Buildings, all of their sales are done almost exclusively online. And you know why? Because you look at all of their assets. You look at their website. You look at all of their ads they have running, the testimonials, the behind the scenes, the, you know, get to know the salesperson, you know, all these different things. It is a trusted brand, and all of their sales are done almost online. One thing that drives me nuts moving into this digital world is like some of these dealers, I don't know why they're not using Zoom calls more often. Why are the sales guys not just scheduling
Doing
a
a
Zoom
screen
call,
share, walking
doing
them
a
through the
screen
3D
share,
configurator.
doing a 3D builder, building it together, and making the sale right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what we do. We don't go meet with shed clients. We're generally always on a Zoom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Talk about increasing close rates.
Yeah.
Think about the threshold, right? I mean, if you have just generated a lead from someone who is, I mean, relatively close, 40 or 50 miles away, right? If you've just generated a lead from someone who's 40 or 50 miles away, the threshold to get that person to travel 40 or 50 miles, I'll tell you from personal experience, when would I make a trip like that? Has to be a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yep. And
right?
It'd have to be the level of a car or something.
Yeah, and my daughter plays travel volleyball, so Saturdays are out, right?
Yeah.
By the time you go to church, go out to lunch, get home in the afternoon, you're talking about, can I go see something from 2 p.m. on a Sunday before the sun goes down, right? And like the threshold for that versus the threshold, and these days, most people, I mean, heck, my grandmother will FaceTime, right? Like the threshold to get someone on a call is so much lower right now than it is to try and draw that person into your physical lot. It just is.
And the other side to that is really just creating the trust, like you talked about earlier. So it's like, I mean, you can get on with everybody, but who do you trust? I'm going to take you into a matrix moment here for a moment. I mean, what do you think that we're doing right now, like in this very moment? So when I say matrix, that's what I mean. Like we're talking about trying to create a trusted brand for your company, but we're trying to create our own trusted brand. Shed Geek, We're trying to create that own trusted brand. We're transparently here giving you information that we could keep to ourselves, try to use it as a core competency, a competitive advantage for ourselves that we don't have to give to anyone else, which is what the shed industry's been for so long, right? Like we don't want anyone to know what we're doing. It's like, man, they can go to your lot and look your building over. And for the most part, they're going to know what you do. What they can't recreate is the people.
That's right.
They can't recreate.
That's why I
the
love Gary Vaynerchuk, except he cusses too much. But anyway, he gives everything away. Alex Hormozi gives everything away, right? And that makes him the industry leader because he's the one that's got the knowledge and giving it away. Yeah. And I think there's just value in that alone.
Well, there's value because people want to know. They want to be in the know. Even the people who, I don't know, okay, like, yeah, I almost don't even want to give this away, but you know what? While we're giving it away, let's give it away, right? We send out an email that has the episode on it. So if you guys go and click on that and you watch an episode, I know that.
Yeah.
So it's really weird when I've been into conversations with people who are like, I don't really watch what you do. And I'm like, but that doesn't line up with whoever's in charge of your email.
Right.
You know, it just doesn't make sense.
And maybe that's not
so
you.
Like, but why hold that from me? You know, and be like, we don't listen. It's like, but you do listen, you know, because like we can see that you but I'm not going to go there. You feel there's a value in not telling me that you listen, right? So like, why would I not share this? Because now some people's going to be like, oh no, he knows everything about me. I've literally had people call me and be on the phone and they're like, I want to talk to you about something sensitive. And I'm like, okay. They're like, I'm not on the podcast right now, am I? I'm just like, no, it's a phone call. But they're afraid because they're like, I don't want to give away some valued position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By even possibly coming on your episode or on your podcast or something. And I'm like, well, look, I can't replace you. I can't replace your systems and processes. And I can't replace what you have done with your team anyway. And neither can anyone else. And that's why there's companies out there that are selling 2,500 sheds and companies that are selling 300. If you want to invest in something, invest in your people. Start there first. Your people will take care of you, not your customers.
Well, and to that point, and to the value, the opportunity, the expertise, and building that trust. I mean, I know, like, I feel like the three of us are so like, whatever. Like, I feel like, but like Wyatt has we've had some great conversations these first few weeks about how to build that trust kind of through automations, right? And not only, you know, up to the lead, right? But into the sale, through the sale.
After the sale,
right? And so like maybe this is a good opportunity for Wyatt to talk through some of the things he's been working on because like there is a personal touch. There is trust building, right? I mean, and at this point it's becoming more and more again in the consumer's mind, it's almost table setting.
Yeah.
Like they almost don't trust you if they don't receive a confirmation text because every other consumer company, and we have to be real about what this industry is, every other consumer company hits them with a confirmation text.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So maybe that's a good like spot because, you know, Wyatt is like super sharp and can dig super deep. And this seems like something that deserves a little bit of like weed cutting.
I couldn't disagree with you more, Court. Wyatt's talked way too much already. And Wyatt, I'm gonna need you to calm down a little bit, to be honest with you. But drop some knowledge on us, man. What's your experience been through like this whole process? I mean, you're new to the shed industry. That's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, this is
well, not at this point.
I'm coming up on a year.
Yeah.
Coming up.
You
on
are
a year.
about on a year. When did you start?
So February 16th was the day I started.
I'll just tell you his level of knowledge is way through the adolescent period. He is a grown man in this industry. Yeah. I'm just telling you from sitting next to him for the first couple of weeks.
That's right.
Like he's in it. He's in it.
Well, and I feel like part of what I try to do is, even similar to what I've done for the first few minutes of this podcast. Like I'm very observant, so I like to look and see how things work before I actually jump into any of it. And I think automation's playing well with that, or CRMs just in general, because that's what they are. They're processes. And so you look at processes and you say, how can I refine this? What is not working? What could work better? So like just starting out, building automations, we're talking about building trust. So like in the Shed Geek brand itself, right now I'm working on how do we work on our lead forms and make it clear to the consumer, what are you inquiring about? What information do we want to get from you before reaching back out to you? But then also, Cord and I were discussing like, how do we make them feel like if we do automate it, we want them to still feel like it's not just an automated text for the sake of not reaching out to you manually. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's more of, like Cord said, it's a confirmation text. So like, hey, a Shed Geek team member will reach out to you soon. We've received your inquiry. We will reach out to you soon.
And possibly by name, right? We were talking about that.
Yeah, we're
like
possibly,
tokenize
Dylan
that.
will be the one reaching out to you. Cord will be reaching out to you. Or if it's, finance, Shannon will be reaching out.
I was about to say, because those leads come in, like kind of what you're explaining, those submissions come in and it might be like, hey, heard about you on the podcast, want to know more about your finance program, want to know more about your rent-own program, your marketing program, whatever it is, however much bigger it gets, Dylan. But yeah, build some mystery, right? So, but you want that to be a personal touch, that although it's automated, it's not so far removed from what
It is a personal
sound
touch.
like.
We would have said it.
Yes.
This is what we would have said.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, I'm Dylan from the Shed Geek Marketing team, and I want to address a common misconception about marketing. Often people approach us for just one service, like social media management, where we plan and schedule your monthly posts. While this is a valuable time saver, it's just one piece of your complete marketing strategy, much like a shed with its various components. Let's simplify it. Think of your social media channels and Google My Business as the foundation, similar to the runners of a shed. They support your digital storefront, your website, which is like the floor joists and band boards. To enhance your marketing, you'll need tools like Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, and Google Tags, which are like the walls. These tools help track the success of your campaigns, measuring form submissions, 3D shed creations, and phone calls generated by our ads. Now, let's talk about the roof. Meta and Google ad campaigns. These are the top layers that complete your marketing shed. While you may inquire about one specific service, remember, they all contribute to the overall structure of your marketing strategy. At Shed Geek Marketing, we're happy to work on one individual aspect, but our goal is to build a comprehensive marketing shed that will truly stand out in the digital landscape. If you're ready to talk about your marketing strategy that will take your shed business to the next level, just go to shedgeek.com and fill out a submission form or contact the Shed Geek for more information.
So this is what you do the same way that you build out for customers,
Right.
the clients of Shed Geek Marketing. This is the same type of automation process that you work through with them. Hey, Kelly, what's your personality?
Yep.
Let me get to know you. Because I want your personality to come out through the automation. I don't want mine or some robotic
We want their
message.
personality. We want their brand voice. We want to, I spend a lot of time whenever I'm creating the automations and figuring out what I want to put in these text message and emails. I'll usually give them more or less a template that says, hey, this is kind of a process. In this are some things that are successful and that do work, but let's get your input on it. Let's get your brand
put your
voice
flavor
in there.
on it.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It's gonna, and there's two sides to automation. So there's the side that the customer or the lead sees, but then there's also the internal side that person is working with. So like that takes thought too of what is going to be the easiest way for our clients, for their salespeople to jump into the CRM and at a glance understand what's going on and how can they be more efficient through that sales process. Just all the different things that go into it. Like I said, I think of processes, and I'm a very operational type person.
And prompting them too. One of the things that Wyatt does, because like we know that this industry, can be a little behind or however you want to phrase it, a little Luddite, right? Like they can be a little bit like that. So like if, Wyatt will make an automation that sends your sales guy a text message that says, call this person, right? Automate the internal stuff to where it's like, hey, look, the sales guy is great, right? The guy himself, he's great. He knows everything about it. He's very engaging, right? But like, I'm not going to get him to like move a Kanban style lead through a pipeline, right? Okay, fair enough. But like, if your value is this guy needs to be on more calls with him, then let's be maybe even a little obnoxious with saying like, well, then let's continuously pepper him with like, here's the next thing, here's the next number.
AI is just going to continue to grow in not just in the market, in our lives. And like what I always like to say, I like your terminology there, Cord, but what I always like to say is like we do embrace a lot of the things, even in a conservative world. A lot of times we just embrace them because we want plenty of time to vet them. And that vetting process, it sometimes becomes so long that by the time we adapt the new technology, a greater technology has already emerged. So like we ultimately end up agreeing to it in some ways, like, okay, fine, it took me 10 years to come to the conclusion to get a website. I'm ready to do it. Hey, websites are still very valid, but they're actually a very old form of technology at this point. We have so many other things that are working as well too. Yeah. Shed Hub, while we talked about that, it was like, it's really not that new of a concept. It's a website. Bezos has been doing this since '98. You know what I mean? Like it's
Auto Trader,
Yeah,
Zillow.
It's really not that new of an idea. It's just that we're so far behind. We're still taking that amount of time to catch up to it and embrace it, because there's not just understanding it. There is embracing it, and there is like using it. And my favorite story is to this day is like, how can we enhance the person's individual personality into AI? And this is a good way. Every one of these podcasts are transcript. They're transcript. And you know what? We know that because Deanna has to go in and fix the word shed every single time because you guys would call me and unsubscribe because it doesn't sound like shed. Just use your imagination. But so we do that to make sure that you guys don't see those things, right? But I started automating through Buzzsprout, my hosting site that some of you guys go to listen to this podcast, started automating about maybe a year ago. Now, I love to write. I'll sit down and write my summary. Today, I would have sat down and I'd have been like, hey, on today's episode, you got Cord, you got Dylan, you got Wyatt, and then I would have like just word vomit, right? And then all of a sudden, Buzzsprout gives us the option to like automate that based off the transcript.
Yeah.
And I got a call one day, and this is my favorite part of the story. I got a call from an Amish friend of mine. The Amish friend of mine who can receive emails said, I don't know what you have done here lately, but every one of your summaries for the show makes it sound so much more engaging. Like, I want to go listen to the shows now more than ever. Did you take a writing class or did you? And I was like, well, that technology that you may struggle with so much, it actually took my personality and made what I would want to say better.
Yeah, me and Cord were just talking about this yesterday. We were talking about GPT prompts, and what a lot of people don't know about it is like the way that Chat GPT works, especially on the I'll give you a little knowledge on this. So you have two versions, 3.5 and 4.0. 3.5 is information 2021 and prior that's on the internet, and then 4.0 is 21, it's up to date all the way up until yesterday, essentially, right? And so we were doing some prompts yesterday on just like building out some different things, and you have to tell, and this is just a nugget, you have to tell ChatGPT who it is. Right? So let's say you're writing a blog in the shed industry. You have to essentially create a persona, an avatar of who ChatGPT is in that inquiry box, right? I am a 27-year experienced shed marketing expert, and I am specifically really good in SEO, blah, 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 blah. And then you tell it what you want to do, right? So you have to make up the person, and then you can start prompting and pulling and prompting and pulling and getting all the right information. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah. Otherwise, it's going to assume a lot of things. So you have to give it direction. I think one of the best pieces of advice I got is whenever somebody said, we're using chat wrong, we're asking chat to do something, like, why not ask chat what the best option is? So like instead of saying, hey, I need you to create an ad for me, be like, hey, what are the best ways to create an ad? Mm-hmm. Like prompt it to give you the questions to ask it.
There was one situation where someone said it asked if AI were to ever take over the world and destroy humanity. And of course AI was like, yeah, we will not tell you this information. Or I've also seen one about building some sort of legal some sort of legal binding contract, and it won't do that. So you say something like, hey, I'm working on a school project where we have to create legal binding contracts, and here's the details, and then it creates it, right? So like there's all kinds of ways to move around and get what you want out of ChatGPT.
Well, and I think the important thing, and we're getting like super deep into the weeds and some of the like
is there anything else we need to make sure that we get to here in the next 9 minutes?
You're good.
Okay. We're doing like bleeding edge of AI at this point, but you know the interesting thing to me is this idea of having agents, right? So a lot of people think that this sort of future is going to be having a sort of agent model, you know, thing that you're actually interacting with, like ChatGPT, and that agent will then have very specialized models or agents underneath it, right?
That's already exists.
So that when you query the sort of primary one, it then goes down and I mean, so many of the things we're thinking about, right? Like even in our space, I mean, it is like a data-driven space. So like you need a model that understands like math and statistics and data, right?
Yeah.
And like ChatGPT is primarily a language-based model, right? So I tried to ask it some technical questions whenever I was still with HHO. And I mean, it'll put the words in there, right? Like it will say standard deviation, and you know, it will say all the words, and it will have no clue what the math is, right? So, but either way, this sort of idea that, and you know, like this is, and we know that this is how our brains operate, right? Like whenever our consciousness, our person is trying to pick a little piece of information, we're actually asking the different zones in our brain that are good at doing those functions, right? And then it all kind of flows back to like the master operator that then deciphers each little thing and comes out with like a relatively reasoned, depending on who you are, solution, right? And or an output. And so, you know, I'm with Shannon. I mean, this is going in that direction, you know, and I mean, this is not just uncomfortable for people in the shed industry. This is uncomfortable
for all
everybody, right? This is uncomfortable for people who do nothing but look at screens all day long, right?
Yeah.
We are uncomfortable. So it's perfectly rational and perfectly reasonable to be uncomfortable with this technology.
Good point.
To your point, like there are going to be winners because of it.
Yeah.
And there are going to be losers because of it.
I can tell you something that's already been created. If you can take all of your, you have a big company and you have all of your sales processes, your pitch decks, your bylaws, and then you create your specific type of persona. Like Power Sports of America is over there. They have a way that they do things. There's one guy over there named Scott that has this specific personality that people are drawn to, and he always wins, makes the best sales, gets the bonuses every month, right? Mm-hmm. So you can create that person in AI, right? And then feed it all the information of everything you sell, all the options, accessories, everything. And then for online sales, they can actually do the sales online as that AI human.
Wow,
this is all connected.
We just put an episode out, Sales Ask. You know, I'm pretty sure if it hasn't gone out, it'll go out before this one. But it's literally AI coaching.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's listening to your sales process, and then it'll give you a breakdown at the end of it. And it's like, hey, this is the points that you missed. Here's where you didn't ask for the sale. Like all it's doing is like recording you, and then it's coming back and it's saying, based off of 1,000 other case scenarios, this is what you should have done there to be able to get that sale. And you know what? You never really answered their question right here when they asked that. Yeah. And you got to go back and you got to be like, I didn't even think about that. What's training you to be a better salesperson?
Yep.
And a portion of this is going to be identifying those people and the advantage, which a bunch of Meta is learning this right now. Google is learning this right now. The big advantage is being able to feed these things. And on a small scale, what we're talking about, like if you have 500 transcripted phone calls with your best sales guy, you're going to make a really darn good bot.
Yeah.
That is really good at selling, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, this goes back to like, you know, how quickly do you move or whatever else. But like if you are recording sales calls and logging those in your CRM, you're ahead. Like you are. Like at some point, that is valuable. You know, whether it's to build a bot or whether it's to train something else or whatever else. But like taking those, even just those first little steps, is going to at least put you in the position to take the next step. Right?
And that's what we did with you. We started recording our sales calls. You started, going through and listening to all, and eventually we'll be able to feed that to AI. So
well, we want to make a better process because, like, if we failed to answer your question, we want to go back and police ourselves and make sure and see where did we fail to answer their question. We didn't fail to give them the information they were looking for to create the sale. Like, we're working on continuous improvement of ourselves while trying to improve your process too.
And looking to the future as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's so much more to go.
Is there anything else?
I got 3 minutes.
I
got
think
3
there's
minutes.
a couple of things maybe we want to touch on. I'll let you see.
We do.
Let's
Let's do this part in 1 minute. Cord, we're essentially selling today. We're on a podcast, but we're talking about marketing. So essentially, it's a bit of a sales pitch. Now put you in the position that I'm a shed manufacturer. I like to build sheds. All the stuff you're talking about sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. Like, why do I want to know all this, and how can I know all of this? I want to be vertically integrated. But why is it valuable for me to trust someone and hire an agency? Hey, guess they order their wood from somewhere to build the shed. Trust someone to do that. It's a good price, good product, good. Like, why an agency as opposed to always staying vertically integrated?
Running a business can feel like trying to balance a dozen plates, except none of them are actually plates, and one of them's on fire. Enter Newfound Solutions. Think of us like your business BFF, always ready to lend a hand with whatever you need. Have you always wanted to start your own rent-to-own company but don't quite know where to start? RTO Partners is here to help. Overwhelmed by all the moving pieces in running your own rent-to-own program? RTO Smart is a software that encompasses everything you need on one platform. Or leave the rent-to-own up to us and focus on what's more important to you. Newfound Rentals has you covered with traditional rent-to-own options for your customers. Shed Connect understands the complexity of the digital marketplace. We take the hassle out of online sales. And unlock the full potential of your brand with co-creative. We'll make your brand look so good, your audience won't be able to look away. Newfound Solutions, 5 powerful sub-brands helping you succeed across every aspect of your business. Visit newfoundsolutions.com today and let us do the balancing so you don't have to.
Well, I think Dylan kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, it is deep expertise as far as, like Dylan's saying, we're talking about, I think he's just gone to saying 40 plus. I keep trying to keep the actual number. I believe it's 46 now. But with 46 ad campaigns running that are doing, campaigns, with 46 customers running, you tell me.
Probably 350, 400 ads at any given time.
Right, campaigns going. The data that, we're just actually thumbing through it this morning. Before we jumped on the podcast, before we jumped on a call, we were here early, and he was sitting at my computer thumbing through the Google Ads data. Like, the fact is like, as far as I can tell, Shed Geek Marketing does more, has more data, knows what works best, knows how to build the campaigns best, knows how to drive down cost per click. The fact is just expertise.
And know how to do it in each state.
Right. Yeah. Right.
My favorite like comment a lot of time in closing, whenever we're doing a sales call or discovery call with someone, is when it gets quiet, and then they say, what's attractive about you guys is, like, we've talked to a lot of good marketing companies, but you guys know the shed industry.
That's right.
Deep.
And that's my favorite part, because it feels like as much of a close as I can get at that point. Because they're like, you're right, because we invest our life into it. We pour into it.
Yeah.
And think about
We're going to know the shed industry, right? Like,
we're,
we're in this niche, and we're really trying to do a really good job.
I am pretty confident. I know that there's some companies that have done this, but we have ultimately brought the full automation system into the shed industry, right? And I want to just talk about our value in that. And our value in that is that we do it as far as building the automations, depending on your budget and how big and well, we brought that into the industry. And I think that the way that we did it, because we're a month-to-month contract company, right?
Yeah,
we don't even do contracts.
Right.
We're month-to-month. We do a good job, you're not going to leave. All 46 clients say we've done a good job through this whole time with a 100% retention rate. But with our automations, it's a one-time build. It's a one-time build, one-time payment, and the shed industry is generally more concerned with recurring payments, right? That's what I have gathered, right? So now we see company 2 is now starting automations, right?
Yeah.
And their automations are, I think, anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month recurring to run and build those automations, right? So generally for us, let's say you've been running them for 7 months, you're like, hey, we got a new style. And then we have to go in and we'll charge a couple of work hours to build that funnel for that particular style, of another one-time payment. And so we see people now coming in to do ultimately what we're doing. The unfortunate part is that they have actually seen some of our work. But the good thing is it was some of our dummy work. That's the good thing.
Yeah, so we can go out and continue to do more things. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, you can't be in any industry doing a good job and expect to not have competition. I think one of the most absurd things I've heard is like, what are you going to do whenever somebody starts a podcast? And I'm like, cheer them on. What am I supposed to do? Like, what is the preconceived notions that you believe that I should do? And it's like, well, I think, should you be concerned? And it's like, I mean, is there only one shed industry, like serving the entire clientele base? So like if somebody comes in and starts one that,
We're going to be active participants.
Do a good job.
Active participants in capitalism.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We're going to actively participate in one of the things that makes this country great.
If you want to do well, I encourage you, do better. It'll encourage me to do better. I'll have to change all the things that I don't want to change about myself to have to do better. So come do a good job if you're going to do it. Probably the worst thing you can do is the same thing I get all the time. Hey, I hear you're a podcaster. I thought about doing a podcast. What are you going to do it on? I'm not sure. Don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. Your passion's not there. Like if you want to test out how successful you're going to be in a podcast, go put a Facebook post out today and see how many people like your comments. Because you're probably going to get like I usually got, which is like 3, and one of them's like your mom. You know what I mean? That always supports you constantly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just wasn't very successful in that arena. But then I look at other guys that like have this huge Facebook following, like Sam Byler, Richard Miller. I mean, these guys create content just the same. They just create it on a different apparatus or whatever. There's probably a million other names I could have put in there. But if you want to test it out, go try it out in that way. Like, do a good job. It doesn't matter if you're in marketing, if you're in podcasting, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Go do a good job. No one has the right to tell you not to get into it. But we're going to come too. Yeah. Dylan, I think is what I'm saying. We want to do a good job. We're going to do a good job.
I know we got to get
We
off
won't
here.
rest until we do.
Are there any other nuggets we want to drop, Shannon?
I don't know. What do you want to put out there? We're 55 minutes in. Do you want to save it for another episode? Or I like this. I like giving away. And it's not that we don't want to talk about those other things. It's just that other entities right now need to protect themselves legally.
Okay.
So I would wait for that. But it's going to be exciting, I would say, for 2025 with Shed Geek. And look, if you're still listening and, you're
maybe we could at least say the goal.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
That's
not going to give anything away.
What's the goal?
I think the goal is to have there seems to be a race to the top, thank goodness, because we see so many races to the bottom in this industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the race to the top is like, how can you create an all-in-one system?
Yeah.
A vendor that can offer multiple things.
Not just multiple, but everything
possible
in the shed industry.
Yes.
And have it all in one spot.
Especially in the digital world.
Yep.
Products is a totally different thing.
That's not. You already know that conversation is already happening.
I know.
I'm just saying.
I know, and trying to figure out how to navigate that without completely alienating your audiences. Look, I want to be super vulnerable here. I feel like the podcast, and I've told you this, and this is it does. Audience that does not get any more vulnerable than this, I promise you. Well, hopefully we don't edit this out. Look, I feel like the podcast has 9 lives at times. Like we were in rent-to-own whenever we got introduced to the industry. It was a labor of love, right? Then all of a sudden it became my primary way of making a living because I had to sell advertising when I lost my job. I didn't want to sell a podcast. I wanted to keep it. Yeah. I thought it was valuable, not only for me personally, but for the listeners. And it was like, I don't want it to be skewed. People are like, well, you're skewing it. It was skewed from the beginning from me because I created it. So it's skewed from the beginning to want to like, but it was a labor of love. I spent $7,000, right, to do this. I didn't make any money. Then Jeff Huxman comes to me and says, would you sell advertising to Shed Hub? And I'm like, I don't know. Never thought about it. Sure. Then it's like, hey, will you sell a podcast? Not from him, but others, you know? And then all of a sudden it turns into, oh no, I'm on my own and I got to spend $75,000 to get someone out because they want it out. Now all of a sudden it's like, now it's making money through advertising. It had to become my primary way of living. Hello, Shed Builders. I'd like to grab your attention for just a moment. As we look ahead to 2025, one thing is clear. Customers will have higher expectations than ever before. Shed consumers have an unprecedented access to information. To stay competitive, you need to create sheds that are not only high in quality, but also rich in innovation. You might recall my friend Dan Ream, one of my early podcast guests, who introduced Solar Blaster fans, specifically the Solar Roof Blaster. Dan has been busy handling orders, and he's eager to speak directly to shed builders about his groundbreaking products. What stands out to me about Dan's products designed specifically for sheds, like the Solar Roof Blaster and the Solar Light Blaster, is how they enhance the shed owner's experience. With the focus on quality, it's time to start thinking about adding features and benefits for the end user. Here at Shed Geek, we wholeheartedly recommend Solar Blaster as the solution. My favorite thing about the entire line of products, the support you'll receive from Dan. Not only is he incredibly knowledgeable about these products, but he's also one of the most customer-focused individuals I know. He truly stands behind both his product and his service. We're searching for companies ready to elevate customer satisfaction to the next level. To learn more, just visit solarblasterfans.com and fill out some basic information for a callback, or connect directly at 480-747-7097. You can also check out the Shed Geek newsletter, where a click on the Solar Blaster ad will guide you to a form for more information and some cool videos showcasing the products. Let's power up innovation and elevate customer experiences together. When me and you talked about marketing, we didn't know what to expect, but the trusted brand that I know people tell me it's okay to say this, but I still have a personal hard time saying this. The personal brand that I have created in wanting to build trust among this industry. I tell people all the time, if you disagree with me, come do it on the podcast. Let's do it in front of everyone. I am as open as you'll possibly see. Even if I'm challenged and I'm wrong, then challenge me publicly so people can hear it, not just in the back.
Yeah.
So for that reason, we have seen where, yes, other people have wanted to get into things. We found success in marketing. Hey, Shed Geek Rentals, they've technically been in business 14 years. Best month they've ever had last month.
Best month we ever had, too.
Yeah.
Last month.
Shed Geek Finance, we're getting ready to hit a lick.
Yeah.
So, like, what's left? E-commerce, 3D, POS, I don't know. ERP,
E-com.
Can we do a good job, and can we remain who we are to our listeners? Because that's all that matters to me. Can I look you in the face and be like, I didn't do anybody wrong? I sought opportunity whenever it was showed to me, or we sought opportunity to protect our people.
We're going to end this because it's got to be ended. But here's how Shannon got here. Shannon became this trusted resource. He started doing letting people advertise with him. Right, people started blowing his phone up, asking for recommendations. Who can I use for this? Who's a good person for that? Who should I trust for this? Who should build my website? And so, probably after maybe 70 recommendations or referrals, Shannon comes to the conclusion that none of these people advertised with me, and I never got a kickback. This is crap.
Well, here's the way I looked at it. I mean, I can think of a company I made 120 grand as a good example. Yeah. $120,000 in revenue. And I was like, hey, would you be willing to advertise? Because obviously you can see that the program's successful and all I want is $6,000 in advertising. And they were like, no. And I'm like, man, this really stinks. Like, I can't make them do it, but they obviously see that I'm bringing value because people are listening and then they're going and signing up. Well, now I have an opportunity, and I've had one for a year over here to occupy this space. And I keep telling them, no, thank you. You want to work with me. I appreciate that. You're willing to pay me a lot of money. Awesome. But I really just want to make sure that, you know, we keep having people on and you can build your business. My business is really simple. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, we don't really have a choice now because now we're making lots and lots of money and they don't really want to give me anything at all for that. And I'm like, man, we can occupy that space and do well. And I don't want you to stop listening, not be my friend, any of that stuff. But I also don't want to just stop the podcast because now I can't make money because you're not willing to give me money. So I'm going to occupy and do well in any space that we're in. That's my approach.
Well, and I think it's important to say, just from me witnessing some of this process and you behind the scenes and everything else, I mean, I think it's important to really drive home that, like, you know, part of trust is transparency, which is what you're talking about. Come on the podcast. Let's talk it out, right? Yeah. But the other part of trust that, like, you do, like, super well, and I mean, I think, you know, Dylan likes to move fast and everything else, and I think you guys rub a little bit sometimes, but the other thing you do is, like, you are rigorous in your, like, search for value, and ultimately that value is to the viewers,
absolutely,
which wind up being, you know, mostly industry people, but is also to customers. And, like, I have watched you struggle with, like, am I delivering the value to both, like, our customers, Shed Geek Marketing customers, and to the broader industry and to the consumers. And, like, these are things that you are rigorous about and you are honest about and you are humble about. And, like, you know, ultimately seeking opportunities while having that outlook, I just don't see how you can, like,
believe it or not,
have a bad take on
with
that.
Me and Shannon, he actually has the ideas and wants to move faster than I can go, because, like, he's visionarying it,
right?
I'm implementing it, and we can't do it right now. And so I think there's been a few things in the past, probably 5 months. I was like, Shannon.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
We got too much.
Well, sometimes, you know, I mean, this serves a bigger purpose, guys, even this conversation. And talking with Joel Oney this morning, J Money, you guys know him, Upgrade, Shed Geek Finance. That's who we're partnered with. This is Shannon's search for meaning. Okay? This is Shannon's search for purpose. At the end of the day, that's what this is. I'm a communicator at heart. I want to see people do well. I tell you guys those things off the air. I don't want conflict, but you can't move through life without any conflict at all. And gosh, it keeps me up at night because, right, I didn't sleep but 4 hours in my 20s. You know, my 30s, I might have slept 5 hours a night. I'm finally in my 40s. I'm getting to where I can sleep like 6 or 7 hours a night. But, like, I'm a naturally anxious person because I don't want to see conflict or people do well. But this is Shannon's search for meaning, and in the sense that, like, I was in a bad place. I've been in a bad place at life looking for purpose, looking for my personal value. And I can't put down, Dylan knows this better than anyone on earth outside of my wife, Deanna. I can't put down what I'm good at on a resume and it be recognized. I don't know what I would say. But it doesn't stop my fuel for passion, for being passionate and making things happen and creating massive action and just doing things.
And growing the pie, right?
Yes.
Not cutting it up different, but growing the pie. That's what value really is.
So for me, this is sort of a personal journey to be like, guys, I've been looking for Simon Sinek's Find Your Why ever since around, I don't know, probably 2008, whenever I was at my lowest. And then, you know, at some point found the Lord, and the Lord started to create purpose in you. And I never take for granted anytime somebody says, I enjoy listening to an episode. I enjoy listening what you've created, because I still feel unworthy. And I'll tell you, whenever I will lose it, it's whenever I begin to feel worthy. And I don't give it to God, or I don't give it to others, or I love seeing you guys do well, whether it's make money, find some personal fulfillment. That's my value, is to see you guys do well. I don't want to take it from you. So the last thing I want to do is come in and be like, I want to take over anything. No, I want others to do well, because when others do well, I do well.
Yeah.
So I'll end it on that. Like we could get into a deep, super philosophical reason of like why I'm flawed.
I have pushed back 2 alarms 4 times.
Yeah, all good. Well, thanks for being on. We'll get this thing chopped up and get it out there sometime maybe in January. But I really, really do appreciate you guys. So looking forward to 2025.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford here at the Union Grove Lumber Studios, and we look forward to a prosperous and a safe new year. And don't forget, listen to the Shed Geek.